Charisma's gonna briefly be with us. She'll be able to give her some of her thoughts and opinions on what we want to talk about today. So thank you guys for being here. So yeah, for some of you guys, you may or may not know, I retired from the military in 2021, and I retired from Washington and Jax and trying to sniff some food. Yeah, sorry. I'm forgetting what I was saying. Oh, I retired from the Army in 2021, moved from Washington to Arizona, and went from, what was that, 2022?
2022 from Washington to
Arizona. And then Arizona, we lived there for 2 years, and we moved here to Utah in September of 24. So I think last month made about 6 months. Since we moved here. So of course we absolutely love it, but I think this is also, could be something, if you guys are thinking about just visiting here, or maybe you thought about living here, why don't you actually sit down instead of your young daughter taking a seat? You sure? Let's see. But yeah, if there's somebody that is thinking about possibly moving here to Utah, wherever you're coming from, especially if you're coming from Arizona, we can, give you some good advice, hopefully, and something that might help you guys out. But we've moved. I think when we moved here, that was like our 15th move since including our military career, because we lived overseas twice in Germany, and move this up a little bit. This camera, if I can do that without messing this camera up too much. That's a little more better. It might look like we're too tiny. Okay, better. So we've moved a lot. So we've never lived in Utah. We have lived, of course, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Washington, Pacific Northwest. We've lived in a lot of areas, and of course, we always keep coming back to living out here out west because we love it so much. But that's just kind of a brief introduction to for this, how we got here, in case you guys want to know. If you see, of course, this is my wife Amanda. Probably should have done introductions first. If you do, I know. So this is my wife Amanda. Of course, you guys have seen Charisma. She's 9 years old. In some of the videos that we do, I don't always like to put our kids in a lot of videos, or just focusing just on the kids, just for privacy reasons. But of course, we have Aurelian. He's out. He's over in his room playing. Michaela, of course, and Jax he's down here on the floor.
And don't forget Kobe.
Yes, and Kobe too.
Still living in Arizona.
He's our oldest son, and he's still in Arizona, having fun, enjoying his life. All right. I wanted to just give you guys an introduction and wait a few minutes if anybody else is going to pop in here. But even if you don't, you're going to go back and you can watch this video. So we can jump into it. We're going to, if you see us, this is just kind of casual. this is kind of like a brunch for me. Well, for Mama, because she hasn't eaten much. So, I'm not gonna forego drinking my morning drink here. So, we'll jump right into it. I think we can start off with we can do kind of like some pinball style. We'll go back and forth. So we'll start off, do some good, and then I wouldn't say maybe like pros and cons, or just like good, and then some challenges. I really and the challenges aren't they're not bad by any stretch of the imagination. There's just been some challenges, that's all. But I'll be we'll be completely honest with what we think. And we've lived in a lot of states on the East Coast, in Kentucky, Tennessee, out west, overseas. So we have a decent perspective on all these states, and especially kind of where like Utah fits into the mix of everything. But we have some notes here. If you see me casually glancing over here, because I have to wrote down our list. But first, actually, you can start off with you before we kind of get into our. That way, you want to go and play and do whatever you want. Just like what some of the things you like, or maybe some of the things you don't like compared to Arizona, stuff like that.
Yeah. One of the reasons I like Utah better than Arizona is they have more hiking trails, and also stuff is more free. But some of the challenges, hard things, is like trying to find good things indoor if it's raining.
Here?
Yeah.
Okay. What about the weather and stuff?
The weather is much better. I like the snowiness, especially for Jax. He's much better in the snow here in Utah than he would be in Arizona
Yeah, that's true. He definitely wouldn't like the heat. He's already painting. He's always painting. But okay. So like the weather, all this outdoors. The weather, being able to get outside and do stuff, being able to ride your bikes.
What do you like about the trails here versus Arizona or Washington or any of the other places that we've been and hiked? What's the difference between between here in Arizona, here in Washington? What type of trails do you like? What are some of your favorite types of trails?
Forgot its name.
Describe it.
It was the Narrows in St. George, I think.
Oh, yes. So the children like climbing rocks and going between narrow canyons, boulder climbing, rock climbing, things like that, versus just on a straight hill or a straight path.
Mm-hmm.
They enjoy climbing on things like that, which is quite a bit fun. What else?
The one with the chair at the end.
Oh, Thor's Hammer. You liked Thor's Hammer.
Oh, Thor's Lookout, I think, and that's a nice one. That's here locally in Cedar.
So they have
and
a makeshift.
that biking path over there near the creek, that paved trail that you can ride your bike on.
Yeah.
It goes all the way into town.
And there's quite a few trails around here that the children love too, that have a lot of boulders and rocks you can climb on, but there are actual dinosaur fossil prints in the area.
The one in Leeds that we went to. That's one of my favorites.
Oh, Redcliffe.
Yeah.
Redcliffe's
Where
natural
Dad fell into the water.
natural conservation area. You probably saw that on the video. I didn't get the footage on the video. Thankfully, I didn't get it on the video. Probably that was embarrassing, but my waist down got
hilarious.
soaked. But it was a nice cold plunge. Yeah, that was fun. But when we went back with them, I actually managed to not get wet. So
Beware, sandstone
It
is
was-
very slippery.
it's lesson learned. Okay. Anything else you can think of? Like the people or the neighbors and things like that.
What about the churches versus?
Churches is nice. I wouldn't say the one we go to now is as nice as CCB.
Are they?
But they're kind.
But they're-
nice.
It's smaller, but I think kind of makes you feel like you know
Yeah.
everybody, like a tighter knit
Yeah.
community, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense.
True Life isn't much different from CCB. They do they give like food to eat sometimes, but CCB has groups like second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, all the way up to sixth grade in different groups. Tracks.
You can see him a little in the video. Get your big lips up there. Oh, there he is. There he is. I gotta be in the video too. What do you like? I'm not in New Mexico. You're a little bit cooler weather for
Yeah.
him.
We had to get
He's
him
a
in New Mexico.
handsome boy. He's been a good boy. So you guys probably, if you saw the videos, if you haven't, you can go back and watch them. I had a three-part series about bringing Jax home. We picked him up from a nice, lovely Air Force couple in New Mexico. Thank you, by the way, for blessing us with this
Your food.
droopy man. He's 4 years old, and we got him. It's been over 3 months. We've had him for 3 months now. He's been great. He makes us laugh, and still working on some leash stuff. He does like to see other dogs, and
He put mom with
he likes to have some stuff, but he's doing good though. He's a good boy. Anything else you want to add, or you know, I mean, it's fine.
There's actually really good people here, like really nice people compared to Arizona. In Arizona, I felt like most of the people I knew and at church were mean and disrespectful. But the people here are really nice. There's ups and downs with people, but in Utah, they're actually really nice.
I agree with you on that. Yeah,
Very,
That's true.
very
yeah. Mhm.
Utahns, however they call themselves.
Utahns.
Yes,
Utah.
they're very respectful, very kind, very caring people.
Yeah, I can. Anything else you want to add before you go off and play? Well, I hope that that you know that with Charisma's perspective, that is nice to hear for you guys, especially if you have kids. But I think we've seen them, all of them, not just her, but all of our kids have changed their attitudes and behaviors just since we moved here. I would say this kind of goes into our first, like for starting off on the good stuff as far as what we have on our list. One is the weather. If you're coming from Arizona or some of these hot places in the desert, it's nice because we have. I've heard from locals that this is a little bit of an abnormal year. I guess they get more snow, but they do have 4 seasons. When we got here in September, it was gorgeous weather. It was like perfect, if you remember. Ooh, good jewels.
Thanks to that is St. Bernard
Let me
love.
zoom. Actually, is it going to track you? Or is it going to track you? Because if you do that, you can realize it's going to, the camera's going to probably start actively tracking you.
Oh, gross.
Just wipe it on you. Wipe it on the pans. So, yeah, the weather is so much better. And because it's more temperate here, the kids have more opportunities to get outside and just do kid stuff, ride bikes, play with. We have some some decent neighbors, their kids and stuff, friends that they've already made here, and yeah, they've really flourished just being here in Arizona. I mean, geez, Utah. But the weather is actually really good. I don't think. I mean, it's what, April now. I mean, even in like the cold months. I mean, December through February. It wasn't. I mean, I know it's subjective, but I didn't. It wasn't cold. Even, I mean, during the day it was in like the
20s.
Yeah, I mean,
Some days,
maybe
not every
maybe
day.
in the 30s at the high. Maybe at night it was in the very low 20s, maybe high teens. It wasn't bad, and it's a dry cold, similar to if it gets cold in, like in some parts in northern Arizona, Colorado, it's a dry cold. So it's you can always layer up. If you're living in Arizona, a little bit of cold is welcome. But it's not extreme. Cedar is at, I think it's almost about 6,000 feet elevation, so it's more than St. George further south. It's actually even more than some of the up north in northern Utah, Salt Lake and like Bountiful, some of those places. So it has the elevation. It is cooler, but down south, if you guys go to Leeds and some of those places we've hiked down there, St. George, I would say, is very similar to Arizona weather. It is prettier, I think. There's a lot of nice places to hike in St. George, but it gets triple digit weather, and yeah, it's no joke. But if you want to live in Utah and you like that type of weather coming from Nevada, Arizona, whatever, that would be your location. That would be my suggestion. Anything above that, like we're about 50. Sometimes it's about 15 degrees cooler up here. It's a pretty good temperature change.
Well, the other day it was in the high 40s, low 50s,
Mhm.
and then we went down
It was
to
like 68
was,
there or
yeah,
something. It was a
about
massive
70
change. Then we came back and it was freezing. I mean, it wasn't
for us.
It wasn't it wasn't freezing. It was just cold for us. But yeah. So the weather is like one of the first ones. The next one is something that I'm sure all of you, I'm not saying everyone, but a lot of people probably, this is the big assumption,
They
is
recognize
LDS and and Mormons. I mean, they call it fundamentalist, fundamentalist LDS people, the religion here, right? The religion is always the biggest thing in Utah. People are probably concerned about. So you can address that, and I will say that from living here, they're very nice people.
Mhm.
They're not. I mean, and it depends, I guess, in your background. For us, we're being military in my MOS, my job in the military was religious affairs. So I have a much more tolerance and open-mindedness for all denominations, all religions, across the world. It doesn't matter, if you're Hindu, Muslim, anything like that. I will respect you, for for whatever you believe in. But they are very nice people. You probably, if you're thinking of Mormons, you're thinking of the women dressed in looks like Quaker or Amish dresses, with their hair tied up in a bun, and the boys or men have like these white button-up shirts and little hat or something kind of, which they are around here. But those are the fundamentalists, and then you have just I forget the other name. It's just like traditional
everyday people, I guess.
LDS people, and they're very nice people. I mean, I really think they are. I've never had anybody willingly,
Pushy or
be
mean.
pushy and talk down to you because, if they talk to you, and they're very open to having a conversation about. They're reciprocal in how they want to discuss their faith, and they want to hear your faith. And we've had a lot of nice,
Neighbors.
it's nice civil discussions with LDS people. I mean, we have a lot of neighbors that are LDS, and
they're not pushy to where if you don't accept their religion, they do not reciprocate. They're not going to push you away. They're a lot of people say, well, we didn't want to move to Utah because we've heard et cetera, et cetera. We didn't want to move to Utah because we've heard that if you don't accept their religion, they won't talk to you. They won't be friends with you. You're just shunned from everything. And that is so far from the truth. Very, very far from the truth. Everybody from religious people to non-religious people in Utah are the most caring, helpful, respectful people that we've ever come across. And I mean, I've been
very
to
supportive.
South America visiting, there when my grandparents were missionaries. We've been all over Europe. We've been all over the United States. And, Europeans are very caring and loving and very child oriented. And I would say that people from Utah are very much like that. They'll give you the shirt off their back. There's constantly people, if they're in need of help, people just chip in. They chip in, they'll buy you something, they'll help out as much as possible. Very kind, respectful people. They respect your beliefs, and they're always willing to talk about something, but they don't shun you or treat you differently.
Very inclusive.
Yeah.
And I don't know about. I can't speak for up in the bigger cities, and I mean
Northern.
I will say that we do notice when we have to go, and I don't go down there much because St. George. I mean, it's only 45, 50 minutes away. It's not far for us, but
it's much different.
It's you have a lot more richer people in St. George. The dynamic is a little bit different. You have higher end businesses there, people that want more glamorous, glitzy type of life.
It's a faster pace.
So you tend to not have that, and we're being Cedar. It's a city, but it feels like a smaller town feel. And Parowan and Beaver and some of these places that are just a little further north of us are also very nice. And I think the smaller community, you get that. I don't know about up north. We have been up there, and they still seem nice people. They are. It's just it's in the city, so you kind of you're getting people are on the go. People here are a little more slow. There's a lot of farming, a lot of ranching, cattle, sheep stuff. There's a lot more. Just
they thrive on being outside and living off the land.
So it's a little bit of a different dynamic here. So I mean, speaking from just at least living in this part, but I don't want to, I also don't want this video to go on forever. So but the miss of the LDS and the Mormons, I think it's at least for where we live. To me, that's
Mhm.
false. It's refreshing, and I think too with the younger generation, the teenagers that we've seen here so far, that this goes into how their conservative values, all of that, encompassing there are more. Yeah, there's a few bad apples, but for the most part, from what we've seen, they're very respectful to adults and to others. They'll help. I was, I've been at gas stations, and a lady dropped something on the ground, and a guy helped, called her ma'am, and hey, I'll help you out, and picked it up, gave it to her, went into the gas station, held the door, just basic things that kids should be learning, especially older teenagers, young adults, right? So the way that they're raised is also good, in which is generational. It's they're keeping it going.
In the younger generation, they can actually hold a conversation with you.
Yeah.
Like
So-
you said, they're very respectful, and they're more than happy to talk about you. They love hearing your life story. So, and if you're in a rush, don't start a conversation with people in Utah because they'll just stand around
Yeah.
and talk and talk.
If there's a lot of people that we've met too, they're from California, they're transplants, just they're kind of like us. But there's people, if you're not, and I don't like getting into political stuff, because people here, that's one thing people here are very tolerant of. It doesn't matter what if you lean left, if you lean right, if you're not religious, if you're not, but if you are not, if you don't hold conservative values, there may be things that you dislike, maybe especially in Utah, especially in Cedar, because of their conservative values. Utah was founded by Mormons. Places and names in Zion National Park were literally, they were, because of their belief in the Bible, they were named after things. So that is something, if just to think about, if you're thinking of living here, is they are very pro conservative people, and the state government has passed a lot of policies and laws that protect children and schools and stuff like that and such. Awesome gun laws. But I'm gonna move on, because I also don't want necessarily this thing to go on for too long, because people may not want to watch this for 45 plus minutes. But I'm not going to try to belabor some of these points, but so Charisma mentioned that. So next one, I would say there's an abundance of activities. Once again, this is our experience. This is for our area. We have been in other areas. To me, there's an abundance of activities in almost all these local areas that are for free. That's what I've noticed. And it doesn't mean just Cedar, but for this conversation, I'm just going to stick to Cedar. Because if we lived in Arizona, from our experience, Arizona, of course, is hot, because it's more hot more times out of the year than cool weather. You are forced to do indoor activities, and because they know you have to do indoor activities, they charge for those activities. Whereas here, you have 4 seasons, and no matter what you want to do, there are things to do for free. So if you're on a budget, and especially with the times right now, and the economy is still recovering, if you're on a budget, there's absolutely no reason why you can't get outside. I'm not saying hiking. I mean, not everybody, I understand, likes to do the stuff that we do, like going in the snow and camping and hiking and backpacking or whatever. you may not want that, and that's fine. But there's, you know, there's plenty of stuff to do, and like they call it Festival City, USA, for a reason.
Mhm.
They have tons of concerts put on by the university, SUU here, Southern Utah University, and not everyone is free, obviously, but like when we were here in September for
Mhm.
Halloween, they had a spooktacular orchestra thing they did put on for the kids and families, and it was free. They had it like that. You
Mhm.
went to the thing over here, the campus, and they had a really cool like face painting and dress up, yeah,
area,
and
games.
they did everything for the kids, and then at the end, everybody filtered into this big auditorium, and then they put on a a musical for the family. It was awesome. It
It was
was really good
amazing,
too.
even though
It
it
was
was,
cute. They
centered
used
from kids.
music from Pirates of the Caribbean and Disney
Disney.
movies and stuff. So there's a lot of free stuff to do that doesn't involve if you are not necessarily an outdoors person. Now, if you are an outdoors person, you probably might already know because there's tons of stuff to do. I mean, people are outdoor and they complain. There are people that who live here and they're like, oh, there's not much to
There's so
do.
much to do.
It's more so what can I fit in
Mhm.
while I'm living here because there's so much to do because here is nice. I like particularly because it's close to Bryce Canyon, Grand Staircase, Escalante National Monument. We're 20 minutes from Zion National Park,
Fish Lake National Forest.
Dixie National Forest. I mean, there's so much to do, and that's all free. All it takes is your time and some gas. But um,
Even though
there's an abundance of activities for everyone, no matter what you like to do, kayaking, um, stuff like that. There's something for everyone, and whether you are an outdoor enthusiast or not, um, absolutely love it. It's phenomenal. You're if you like in this month during these cooler months, if we want to go south to St. George or Leeds, where it's 10 to 15 degrees warmer, you can do that, and we can just enjoy some slightly maybe more comfortable weather if we want. And then if we want to go north and catch some snow to Beaver or trying to think of the other place that isn't far too much further north than the Spanish Fork, I think. So some of those places aren't. Point being is the places up north aren't that far. So Cedar is located in a good location, I think.
centrally located.
Um,
I just want to add that even if you do have to spend money on an activity, things are not as expensive
mhm.
here coming from Washington State and Arizona and just
Yeah,
our very many travels all over the place. It's definitely not as costly here. They do have, indoor Cedar Fun Center and indoor aquatic center and movie theaters and just all that type of stuff. The prices are much more
Yeah.
reasonable. They give military discounts. So you're not breaking your wallet in places that maybe are more touristy, like Salt Lake City or even Hurricane and St. George, that are a bit closer to Zion. They might be a little bit more expensive, but it's still very reasonable.
Yep, I agree, 100%. Yeah, and so for something else that we really like is veterans. I mean, being a disabled veteran myself, so they're very. I don't know. I mean, I think all across Utah they are. I mean, they're very patriotic. However, I think down here in Cedar, Pearland, Beaver, this area here, more or less, they are given this is a smaller city. town. They're very patriotic people. They love military because the closest military base is like 3.5, 4 hours north. There's only, I mean, there is, it was a Hill Air Force Base up north of Salt Lake City. And then there is, was it Dugway Proving Grounds? That is an Army testing site, I think. I was never stationed there. I've never been there yet. But I mean, there's nothing around. There's not a lot of military as far as like active duty bases here, not like some places. So they really love veterans. They really do. They give military discounts. They have just perks, and not that we're we're not doing that for those reasons. Not saying that anybody should, but if they do, which they do, try to take advantage of them, because why not? You've done your service. You got banged up physically, mentally, emotionally. I mean, you deserve it. So, I like that Utah. So for like their property tax exemptions for veterans, and I've looked into this when we were thinking of moving to. It was really between, like, it was Idaho, Utah, Montana, and Wyoming. And this is, as we're renting here because we still wanted to kind of look around, and plus the housing market wasn't great. Still isn't. I mean, it's getting better, but interest rates, waiting for them to drop and stuff like that. So, well, this is not a permanent situation for us. So, their property tax exemptions in Utah are actually really cool for disabled veterans. They start, unlike Arizona, and I was just verifying this yesterday before I started this because I wanted to make sure. But Arizona you have to be 100% disabled rating, combined rating, to receive the property. And of course, and I'm sure there's a formula that they use too. I never owned a home in Arizona, so I don't know. But they will do property tax exemptions, but you have to be 100% disabled. Whereas Utah actually starts off at 10% and progressively goes all the way from 10 to 100. So no matter where you fall into that little category, assuming you have at least a disability rating, you get some sort of property tax exemption. And of course, they figure that out, and it's easy too, because I moved here in Iron County, where Cedar City is. You just take a copy of your summary, your disability rating paperwork. You can email it to the county clerk lady, the tax abatement office, and then they put it in the system, and that actually counts towards your vehicle registration taxes as well. They'll knock off a certain amount of registration taxes if you're a Utah resident and you have a disability rating. They don't just go off of automatically, you have to be 100% for this, 100% for this. They have a nice fluctuating scale, which I like. It's not just for, you have to be 100% and that's it to get any services. In Utah, it's nice because it's everything in between. It's low and all the way up to the max, which is always great. So that's just my thoughts on the whole, if you're a disabled veteran, of course, you can get, of course, your free interagency national, your national park pass that you can use for the Forest Service, national parks, state parks. For here in Utah, you can use it for all of them. And of course, there's maybe a couple state parks in Utah that I think they charge a fee for that interagency pass doesn't cover. But, and you get, with those passes, you can get, I believe you can get 50% off, or half of a campsite fee in a national forest established campsite. So it's take advantage of that if you guys haven't already. But that's my thoughts on that as far as the veteran stuff. So moving on to medical care. Actually, I might say that because honestly, that might be a little more. We might labor on that point just for a minute because it actually really is good. Um, but dog-friendly businesses, local businesses here they love dogs. You know, their pets in general. People,
Maybe a little too much.
yeah, and then we'll kind of might go into that in our challenges. But yeah, so there's a lot of dog friendly businesses. They allow dogs. It's not, they don't have to necessarily be ESA animals, or service dogs. They'll allow them to be in the, in a building. I mean, not obviously restaurants or hospitals. Some of them, if you can eat outside and stuff, they let them, which is cool. But your Home Depots and Cal's Ranch, some of those things, they allow them to be with you, within reason. I think obviously if you're doing the right
There's
thing,
carnivals.
but yeah,
Yeah.
they're all over the place. And of course, people here, they have a lot of herding cattle dogs and Australian shepherds and stuff, so they value their dogs. They're not just companions. They're actually working dogs, for here. But yeah, a very dog friendly place, and there's a lot of dog friendly, of course, trails. At least where we live. I mean, obviously there's limitations in national parks on trails, but here they're good. Let's see. I will say that, I mean, with the like vehicle registration fees in Utah for comparison to Arizona. I could even compare this probably to Washington, the last two states we lived in. So I sold one of my vehicles recently, so I don't have that. But when I did have it when we moved here, so just for comparison from Arizona, yes, I didn't have to pay certain taxes, vehicle registration taxes, being a disabled veteran. Which Arizona really, Arizona doesn't really they don't even do that. They don't take any of that into consideration. So the amount that I paid for the two vehicles that we had at the time when I initially registered them, the price of both of those were less than one of our vehicles in Arizona. And it was
Even
still,
half of it.
and it was less than that. Yeah. It was less than, even if I had my vehicle that I sold, it was cheaper than that for two vehicles. So it's pretty good. Yeah, firearm laws, you like guns and, just as much as I do. Good state, just like Wyoming, Alaska. I'm not 100% sure as far as what their concealed carry laws are or open carry laws in Wyoming, Montana are, but here in Utah, they're really awesome. So they're open carry. You can, if you're 21 and over, you can openly carry pretty much anywhere. The exception of certain, government buildings, hospitals, obviously. And even some places, even actually I've been to some government buildings, they don't care. They just ask you to conceal carry. Just you can have it on your hip and then just put your shirt over it, and now you're concealed carry. No permit is required to openly carry here in Utah, which is awesome. They are in the process of doing I think they're in the process of redoing a new law or policy for, because I think it's 18 to 21-year-olds have to have a permit to be able to openly carry in Utah. So now they're trying to revise that so that age group can openly carry all the time. Excuse me. But it's really cool. I love that. Their open carry laws in Utah are very nice, very conservative. I love it. So firearms, you're into firearms. There's a lot of shooting ranges around here. There's a lot of shoot houses they're building, and some of these like people that actually have dedicated ranges, they're building like shoot houses, and that sort of stuff. You guys like that? Yeah. Their firearms law are awesome here in Utah. So school stuff. So Utah has they do have a school. I was making sure that I was getting this information correctly. So they have a school of choice policy. It allows open enrollment for charter schools, private schools, home schools, and it allows families to choose where their families attend schools, not in a district, or something like that where people have to just be right here. It does allow them to go wherever they want to go, even if they, for whatever reason, maybe they don't like that particular school, they can, they can do so. I mean, obviously, they might have to arrange their own transportation, but there's a challenge in there as far as for homeschoolers. I'm not going to get into that, but I will say, like Queen Charisma mentioned earlier about their homeschool laws are actually really good. I think were they low? Or what do they call it?
They're
on that
almost in
website?
between low to no regulation. Really, all you need to do is just
You have to
go in and submit
yeah.
a letter to the school
Yeah.
district.
There's a letter
this
that
is
you
where I
download
live,
online, or you find online
know.
for our county or whatever county district you're in, like we did. And there's 2 letters. It was, hey, for our 2 younger ones, obviously we homeschool them. So it's just, hey, for him, for her, we're homeschooling them.
They put it in their system. They give you a
some of their
letter.
information. They don't ask. They're
They
not
print it
poking and
off right
prodding.
there.
You give it to them, and
That's it.
they let you know. And then I think they actually called me or sent me an email a few days after and just said, hey, we got. Actually, no, they sent me something in the mail that was they like do a little.
You just keep it in your records.
They notarize it, or they do something. So then they send in something back that says, hey, we got it, and you guys are good to go. And then you just keep that for your records for the time being, however long you want to homeschool them or whatever. So it's easy. It's pretty simple. And I think it's about as simple as any state, I think, as far as if you're looking to homeschool and you don't want your kids to be in a public school system, or maybe you do, but you just don't want them in that district that you're in. I can't speak on public school systems or these charter schools and private schools. We don't have our kids in them for obvious reasons, but I will say that they do have a good job. They do a good job with making sure they're policing up controversial things in public education within the state. So I do like that. They seem to be teaching pretty good stuff just from talking to neighbors and their parents, and they're still public school, and
so
that's a whole
states,
I mean, compared to other
not
states, I mean,
as
I have my
bad, but
thoughts
it's
on that, but it's still a public school. So to me, you're not getting the best education you possibly could probably give your kids and giving them that attention that they need. So, but I don't want to belabor that point. So, and I'd say that, so in the last one for some of the good things is the medical care that you receive here is great. It's top notch. I mean, so for Cedar, I think this is for most of Utah. They have the Intermountain Healthcare. That's what it's called. 'Cause I think their primary is out of Salt Lake City. So here in Cedar, Intermountain has they have different specialties. They have like a cancer treatment center, excuse me. They have, of course, they have a hospital, they have clinics, they have pain specialists, orthopedic surgeons. Cedar's not big, but then again, they have a lot of stuff. And if you don't, you can go to St. George where they have other specialties. But the point being is, I've had a lot of experience just from moving here and getting everything set up with, with us and the kids. The doctors in the specialty care providers are awesome. I wish that other states within the country could learn a thing or two from these doctors here in Utah is how
Listen,
they
compassionate.
listen. They don't just, you're not just there. They actually, and they will, I mean, they do have a timeline, but they will bend over backwards to get answers. They don't just think you're complaining and pass you off as, something else. And, lately we've had a lot of doctor's appointments with, things going on, getting things done with the kids, and dentist that goes, for dentists as well.
Yeah.
They're quick to get in, I think,
Mhm.
relatively. They're
Yeah,
very quick to
compared
get in.
places.
It's not like most of them are, 3 weeks or a month or longer just to get in to see a doctor. Very good on that. But they're very compassionate, respectful. They listen, and they get in it. And, most of all, they get answers.
Mhm.
And especially being a military person, I like that they take the initiative and they good communication. They call you back. Unlike
Yes.
most places, I can't stand that when they say, "Oh, we'll let you know," and they
Yeah.
never, hear from.
When they say they'll call back or email, they
Yeah.
do. They communicate
Yeah.
very well. I've had a lot of bad experiences with doctors. I won't get into all of it, but I'm having quite a few health problems, and the doctors here are top notch. They really are. And if they don't know 100% of something, they'll actually tell you. And I've had a doctor reach out to other doctors to try to get answers and figure it out. I've known people, we've had some military friends that ended up getting out of the military and living in Texas, and they actually moved to Utah, northern Utah, for a better way of life, better health, and to get better health care. So I can't speak for northern Utah, but those military friends moved up there, and they're having good results, as we are down here.
Yeah. So yeah, medical. That stuff is good.
I think that goes back to their way of life, their beliefs, of just the way that they are raised here, and it shows in everything they do, from medical care to just everything.
Yeah. All right. So some of the challenges.
And it's not a huge thing.
Yeah, these are all. You call it. I mean, it's really just it's just adjustments. I think this, and then once again, this is our experience. So, given the large population of LDS people here, a lot of the businesses, I'm not saying like big box stores like your Walmarts, Targets and St. George, but some, Ross and some of these places, but there are a lot of local businesses, because it's a largely populated LDS community, that their store hours are a little funky. So some of them are closed during, like a one day during the week. I think sometimes it's like a Wednesday. I think they have services or dedicated, times of worship during the week, I think. But usually it's the difference is on the weekends. A lot of stores are totally closed on the weekends. Like, I'm not talking
Well,
Sundays.
not Saturdays. Just
Yeah,
Sundays.
well, some of them on
A
Saturdays.
few here and there.
There's some that are just Monday through Friday, and then you're expecting to come, maybe you have a busy week and you go, I want to go to see, I don't have time to go see them until Saturday, and then they're closed. And you're like, yeah, I got to wait till Monday or something else to go see them. So their hours are a little different. They're not like other places. other states that we've been to.
Sundays are
it's-
ghost
You
town.
just, said, yeah, Sundays, and of course, there's, I think, that's a little bit more of their family time to reflect on, their service, their worship, their service, and what they do, and it's more kind of meant to a tight knit community in their family that they kind of stick together. So, if you do get out, it's almost the best time to get out. If you're not LDS, it's no disrespect to them. It's one of those times where I think it's really good because I mean, granted, you still have a lot of tourists and a lot of people that still do hiking outdoor stuff here. You got to take that in consideration. It doesn't matter if it's a nice day. There's going to still probably be a lot of people out, but you do tend to have sometimes the trails to yourself, or you go to a Walmart and it could be a ghost town in there. But Sundays are actually a better time to get out if you're doing it. Because plus people are coming back from camping or something, or traveling, and they're going back to work, which is another reason why it's nice to be retired, so you have more flexibility. I like going. We like usually going out on the weekdays, Monday through Friday, and then the weekends we just kind of chill. That's our time to kind of maybe just relax and recover. But
so after
it's
church last week,
not a big
there was
deal,
a carnival in
but-
town, and we went.
Yeah.
And from past experiences, we thought
there's a crap ton of
we're
people
gonna
at a carnival.
need, we're gonna need some time, and we went there, and there was barely anybody
Yeah.
there. I mean, we didn't wait in line for anything. There were some rides we went, and we were the only ones on the ride. So Sundays are best to do.
Mm-hmm. All right, states. So next one, challenge has negotiations with the state special needs. What they call it, GSPD here in Utah. I have no idea what the acronym stands for right now.
But we have an older daughter.
So our
special
oldest
needs.
daughter has special needs. She has autism,
epilepsy.
and I'll say that it needs work. That this is where other states, in my experience, and especially I'll just say the last two states that we live in, are much easier to navigate this problem with getting your child registered, approved, and getting funding to do special needs activities, right? Washington, and maybe some of that too, is these are Democrat leading states. Some of them, especially like Washington, they tend to have more of these services for people. There's good things and there's bad things about that, obviously, with too many people taking advantage of the system. And you see all the homelessness. People in when we were going through California, Oregon, and Washington, there's so much homelessness. But they process everything much quicker. And however, I'm not a government official, so I have no idea. I have a little idea of how it works, but Utah, their funding sucks. So, our oldest daughter, Michaela, is in the DS. She applied and they approved for the DSPD program. Of course, they have Medicaid for special needs, disability, obviously, and you get certain things that associate with that. But within the state, their special needs disability department lacks funding. So to put this, give a little more context to this, when I was talking to the lady there, they are over. They have like a backlog. I don't know how many. I know it's like a few thousand people in their DSPD program, and they have they said their waiting list has been, for some people, it's over 5 years. Like 5 years, just in this. So this is for them to approve funding for, say, like our daughter, so she could go to a day program, or if they want to live, if they have, which they do, some sort of like independent living, developmental home type of structure. And of course that requires funding. There's some things that obviously you can't pay for out of your pocket, but it's prohibitively expensive for these programs. And I don't know if I don't know why Utah doesn't put as much emphasis on these programs. Their funding, unless there's just, I don't know the math. I haven't done the analysis on if there's more special needs people here versus Washington or Arizona by population, but I don't know. But there's whatever's going on, in the whole government thing with that is a little frustrating because applying for it and all that stuff actually wasn't bad.
Yeah,
It
it
was
was
actually
okay.
easy getting her approved, getting the Medicaid stuff going. But now you're basically on a wait list. So we're on a wait list for how
Whoever
long we
knows.
don't know. So that you'll have to pay out of your own pocket if you want your special needs child to go to like a day program. You can still do it. It's just the special needs disability will not cover that. Medicaid will only cover certain things as well. They're very limited on what kind of state funding that they get. So they're whatever is going on, up there to me in their government branch needs to be more efficient. I will say that's very disappointing to me that there's absolutely no reason why special needs, especially children, but anybody, adults and children, should be waiting any amount of time, especially, 6 months is max. But, like over a year, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, that's just crazy. That's nuts. The next thing is the Utah Fits All Educational Scholarship. So when Arizona has the same thing, it's called ESA. Not every state has this. So if you're doing your research, you have to look at, this is stuff you have to look up, right? If you're homeschooling, the educational scholarships help, fund certain things if you're homeschooling your child or private school or some charter schools if you don't want them. I don't know how some of those programs work for others, the private schools, charter schools, and whatnot, because we've never had our children in there. We can only speak from homeschooling them.
But it helps
So,
buy the
yes.
curriculum.
It helps offset the cost. Like
Yeah.
normal things would be paid for if they went to a public schools, thing. Not obviously including backpacks, pencils, some of those things you still would maybe pay for.
Right.
But so some things that they would have in a public school classroom that are provided to the children, same thing pretty much. If they need additional school supplies, the books, other additional things that maybe require with that curriculum.
Mhm.
So the point being, we registered for them,
A month ago.
I don't know, probably
Sure.
more than that. But so actually we're still waiting to hear back on the approval. I will say that process also sucks. They're not streamlined. It's not efficient. They're a little bit of a pain. The things that they ask for,
Mhm.
they're understandable. And I understand that they don't want people taking advantage of the system and they should have checks and balances. Absolutely. And it's a little frustrating, but they don't also, I think they do this by like prioritization, which isn't bad because, there's some people that probably could actually afford, even if they're homeschooling or sending their kids to private school. Although I don't know, because there's probably some people that might abuse the system. You could have, well-to-do families that are very wealthy be trying to, that can actually afford 10 times over their kids to send them to a private school and then send them to an Ivy League school, and people that are less fortunate, they're taking up space and they shouldn't be doing that. I can understand that to a little bit, but then again, you're also seems like you're gatekeeping too much. And the problem is they're doing so much and not everyone is getting a fair shake, I think. If they're not streamlining the process to make it quick, get your information, approve it. It's very slow. ESA in Arizona was not like that. It was very quick. They funded it.
That's where Arizona
They
shines.
have Class Wallet. I know they're doing some things differently, but and it's probably changed since we left. But it was much easier in Arizona. Yeah, Arizona, I still think has probably has one of the best homeschool
scholarships,
funding programs that we've ever seen. Utah has it. It's just I think just like this DSPD thing, it's like you're in a lottery system pretty much. I think I don't believe from what I've read,
You're not guaranteed.
you're
to
not
get it.
guaranteed to get the scholarship funding. So if you're going to do that, take consideration you need to be financially stable to afford
No.
at least initially the upfront cost of homeschooling your kids.
I mean, if you're homeschooling online, it's fine, but we buy a regular curriculum, so it can get pricey.
I think that's pretty much it for the challenges. And then, like I said,
I mean, they're not bad
they're
challenges.
not. It's not showstoppers. It's just they're just a little frustrating with the lack of efficiency and funding. There's other states that do it better, sure. No, to me, there's no state that's perfect,
No.
and you're not going to get everything. So you're just going to have to prioritize your needs and your wants and what you and your family like to do and what you want. That's what it comes down to. But all right, I didn't mean to keep this long. Hopefully, everybody will, if they'll watch it this long. If you guys have managed to stay with us this long, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I've never done one of these live things this long. I did my other one like a week or so ago, but it's kind of cool. I hope that somebody got something out of this. If you did, let us know. And if you have any other questions, put it down in the comments section, and we'll be more than happy to answer. And if it's whether it doesn't matter if it's for me or mama or about the kids or something like that, let us know. I hope somebody did help. Anyone out there, if you're considering living here, moving here, clear up some questions or something what people might have had, or some of those myths. But we absolutely love it, though. We've been overall, it's been a big blessing. When don't regret it at all living here, moving here. Great people, great community, beautiful views. Lots to do outside in the area too. Yeah, there's some frustrations with certain things, challenges. It's everywhere. It doesn't really matter because we're in a better place, and it's cost savings for us with bills and stuff like that, with utility expenses. There's a lot of things that are much cheaper here in Utah. So yeah, maybe we'll come back to this in another 6 months or a year, and we'll look back and we'll do another one of these. If there's something else that you guys want for us to talk about, let us know. You got anything?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, we will see y'all later. Thank you if you've watched it this long. I really appreciate you guys' time and your consideration for watching us and following us. We will see you guys later. So cheers.